Hello, fellow female activists. Cathy here, your wellness coach, and we are here for an extra. Okay, so we all know there are no PQ reps during our extras, but today's extra is notable because it is actually on April 1st, 2025. We all know if you're in the world of fighting fascism in the US, that right now, for the last 18 hours now or more now, Senator Cory Booker has been on the Senate floor since 7 p.m. Eastern Time. He has been basically standing up for democracy, and he started at 7, and he has been talking about basically protesting the regime in place, and he is still going, and I'm praying that he's going to be okay. There better be a medical expert at his side is when he finally yields the floor, and I'm wishing him the best. But this is exactly what it means to save democracy. So kudos to him. Meanwhile, I wanted to share a really fun win, and I wanted to share it simply because it's important in this time and moment. All of us are dealing with high stress, right? And as a wellness coach, I'm doing my best to keep my own stress at some type of base level. And I'm going to be honest, right? It's not easy. So, as a wellness coach, I'm always obviously wanting to help my fellow female activists. One, just with easy tips, but two, to give you some insight, okay, into how it would be if someone were to work with me, okay, and more on that at the end here. But I wanted to give you my own case study, i.e., I am my own case study, and it was pretty fun. So I wanted to share it. I will be reading just because there was a lot of information, and thus the glasses. Usually I don't have glasses on, so my readers. So if you happen to be in perimenopause or menopause, over the age of 40, this will be really relevant to you. So here we go. Again, I will be reading because I don't want to miss anything. My fellow female activists, if you want a reason to embrace and grow your consistency muscle to reach your wellness goals or goal, here's a case study to help you understand the power, okay, of consistency. And quote unquote, this will give you hope if you're currently in perimenopause or menopause. So this past January, a fellow colleague asked if I would support her in her 12-week fitness goals by participating alongside her. Okay, she hired a coach, right, a fitness coach, and she just wanted some accountability more than anything. So she asked if I would take her up alongside her 12-week shoulder plank challenge. So I guess her fitness coach had asked or wanted her to take on a 12-week shoulder plank challenge. Never want to back down away from a fitness challenge. I accepted. The challenge involved completing a shoulder plank, okay, and that means knees off the ground, okay, full shoulder plank, hands in prayer, okay, like this, so, but on the floor, right, and legs together. Specifically, that's the way they wanted her to be in the plank. And this could be for any time they chose, or, either one of us chose. So I chose 5 minutes as my plank 12-week goal. I had previously completed almost a 4-minute plank in the past, probably about 5 years ago, or at least close to it, right? And it was a shoulder plank, but back then I usually kept my legs wide. Again, it's easier on my back. So it's still a plank, right? But either way, I wasn't really, moving towards like, oh, let's see how long I can hold it. It was part of at that time my weekly, my own fitness trainer was giving me plank, drills. So I knew I could at least get close, if not past 4 minutes. I just had never in my life been in a plank for that long, right? So I'm like, okay, 5 minutes, I can work with 5 minutes. It's not going to stress me out. And here's why this is important. So my strategy, okay, remember, I'm a wellness coach. Now I'm not a personal trainer. I don't have that credential, and I don't know if I ever would. I like people telling me what to do so that I could just go do it. But my strategy, okay, so I created basically a little mini plan for myself. So my strategy was to build endurance, okay, with the concept of progressive overload. So for anyone, again, who is a personal trainer or, use, any type of, or if you're just in the know, okay? Progressive overload, right, is the idea that you build obviously muscle through stress, and you have to up that stress, okay, in the form of weights, assuming you're using like resistance training, strength training, weight training. So progressive overload usually does mean, for the most part, that you're gaining, okay, you're overloading, meaning that you're adding, okay, weight. Now there's different versions of it, because it could also mean volume, meaning like how many reps you're actually, trying to finish. But in most cases, progressive overload does mean, okay, how much more can I pump, right? So instead of weights, okay, or the idea of load, the load was going to be actually time. Okay. So I went about this in a very methodical way. Okay. I was like, okay, 5 minutes, that's a long time to plank, at least for me. So let's, and I'll put that in perspective because in the fitness world, okay, whenever you're asked in any type of fitness challenge, or not fitness challenge, but fitness assessment, 2 minutes, okay, is an average for just fit people, right? Theoretically, people who are active and, all that jazz should be able, okay, to hit a 2 minute plank, okay? And that means, and it can be modified, right? But in most cases, they're looking for you to have your knees up, right? So 2 minutes I have done. I knew I could get 2 minutes. I knew I could get past 3 minutes. I just didn't know if I could ever get to 5 minutes, right? So again, the 5 minute mark would be quite new to me. So my body, okay, was already starting to talk. Why are you doing this? But again, knowing that I had a strategy in place, I was going to be kind to my body. This is a key word, giving yourself grace, right? So I decided that to be kind to my nervous system, right? Because that's what it matters the most. I decided that every Sunday would be a long plank, meaning I would go as long as I could. Okay. So I was, the goal was that 5 minute plank with my hands together, okay, in prayer, and then my legs together. So what I would do is, because I knew I could get into a longer plank in my pose too, what I would do is on Sundays, I would plank longer, right? Just to see how far I could go. So I would start out in the pose one, which was again in the pose that we're going to end up going towards, right? Which is hands together and my legs together. But then when I got tired and could tell I was losing energy, I would switch without putting my legs down. I would switch into pose two, which was my legs wide. And it didn't really matter what I did with my hands, but basically changing the pose, right? So my long plank on Sundays, right, was how far can I get that time? Okay. So I would start out, okay, in pose one, which is the preferred way. And then I would switch to pose two so that I could see how long I could go. And then the rest of the week, okay, so each week I would only plank for a scheduled time frame. Okay, so the first week, my baseline was 1 minute. Again, I knew I could get to 1 minute. I've done it many, many times before. Not a big deal. So the baseline I started with was 1 minute. Okay. And then each week thereafter, I would increment up progressive overload 30 seconds. Okay. So I would add on another 30 seconds to that baseline. So I planked every day. This is the consistency part, right? So it's one idea to have like a schedule, a strategy, right? A program. But if you're not consistent, it doesn't really matter. So I planked every day. And it didn't matter if I made that daily goal, okay, or whatever that minute, day was. I just planked. I am happy to say that I was able to make most of those goal days, but in actuality, that wasn't the important part. The important part was that I just planked. Okay. So I was training my body. Okay. I was training my body to stay in pose one without stressing out or shaking. So obviously, something as taxing as a plank, right? That's stress response. So when you start stressing, cortisol rises. That means you're going to start sweating. That means that your heart races. That means you start shaking. Your nervous system is then thinking that you're in severe trouble. So my whole point of this plank challenge was not to get to that state, my whole point was I'm going to get to 5 minutes, but I'm going to do so in ease and flow. Okay. So it took mental fitness for one, but two, training my body, right? Muscle memory was going to get me to that 5 minutes without stressing out my body. Okay. So I used mental fitness, like I said, to concentrate on my breath. Okay. So I was planked. Um, I could plank so I could keep my nervous system from overreacting. So it was awesome because through my mental fitness, I knew exactly how to keep my breathing very, very slow, very, very methodical. Now, and if you practice any type of breath work, same difference, right? But your breath commands the body. Okay, so that was key. So a few weeks after we started the challenge, I came upon a wonderful recorded 5 minute key here, 5 minute prayer that I considered a guided meditation that would be perfect to listen to as I work towards my goal of 5 minutes. I figured I would listen to the prayer, okay, alongside with my mental fitness, with my breathing, as a reward system. So every week, right, I would hear a little bit more of that challenge, of that prayer. It was phenomenal. So I would hear a little bit more, right? The further along I would get in my planking. Um, my hope was that I'd actually memorize it. Now I got pretty okay. I can't say that I've memorized it even yet, but I can at least say that I got really familiar with it for sure. And you'll find out why. But I figured by 12 weeks, I would have at least become very familiar, or if not started memorizing the prayer. So just like any heroine journey, my journey hits a little plug, right? It hits a little snag. I was progressing very well, I will admit, even for myself. And I hit the 3 minute, 30 minute mark, 3 minute, 30 second mark. Sorry. I was halfway through the goal, right? So like 250, or I'm sorry, 230 would have been, the 5 minute mark. So I was halfway there. Okay. And I was actually more so, right? Because at 3 minutes, 30 seconds, sorry. Obviously, I was making really good progress, but I realized that my shaking was very evident. Okay. Both in the pose one and in pose two. I'm like, okay, my body is starting to tell me because it has never been this far. Oh, this isn't safe. So my body's muscle memory actually was working, right? And it knew, hey, you don't usually hold this long. This is not normal. This is probably not good for you. So truly remarkable. And I again realized, okay, if I can train my body, right, to get through that mind game, I'd be okay. So I stayed at 3 minute 30 seconds for an extra week. Again, so every week I was upping my minute every 30 for 30 seconds. But when I hit that 3 minute 30 second mark, my body was like, no, you don't. So I stayed and gave myself grace. I wasn't pushing. I gave myself grace and stayed at 3 minute 30 seconds for 2 whole weeks. And that was the key. That was the smartest move ever. My nervous system started to realize, oh, she's going to do this. And she plans to do this in pose one. So, okay, everyone, y'all get used to this. So my breathing even got better. It got more focused. Obviously my core was getting stronger, so it was easier, right? Because of muscle memory, because it realized, okay, she's safe. She's not going anywhere bad. She's just on this floor and we're going to help her out. So I was listening to my body daily and not rushing into that plank. I made sure to warm up my body, okay, a little bit before planking, as I was planking before my daily movement practice. So I do usually have a daily movement practice, and it's usually fasted, meaning I wake up, I wash up, and then I go do whatever I'm going to do. I go walking. Today it was a Pilates session, but in any case, so every day is different, but it's usually fasted, but it's not vigorous, right? I'm not running for 5 miles. Now, because my body knows that it can be fasted, that's why I knew I could plank. And I knew, and you're going to hear later, that there is a difference between being fasted and then eating something and then, taking on some type of activity, right? So When I first started the challenge, I was actually planking after my daily practice. But again, I was fasted regardless. And I realized, okay, you know what? I don't have enough energy to prolong that 3 minute, 30 seconds without really taxing my body. So I best move the planking first. So that meant that I was going to start planking without warming up from, being in a daily practice. So I went ahead and made sure that I warmed up my little body, planked, and then if I wanted to do, usually I would do some type of movement, right? So, but again, I was listening to my body. In years past, I might have tried to push through, but that would have been putting stress, needless stress on my body. Right now, we don't need, we have way too much stress, even when we're not trying to have stress, right? So it was important to me that my brain and my body both knew that this was new, yes, and both were going to start panicking if I didn't stay calm and intentional. This is key. Consistency works, but you can't force your body to do something, or your brain for that matter, that it deems unsafe. Anytime you're going into something the unknown, something you have not tried before, your body believes you're in danger. Your brain believes you're in danger. So it must compensate. And it's going to tell you, no, we're not doing this. It will come up with the reason. But because of my mental fitness practice, because I have honed my mental fitness muscles, I know how to progress safely. Okay. So I'm glad to say that, in fact, I was very wise, like I said, to stay an extra week in the 3 minute, 30 second mark. Because when I hit my first 4 minute plank, it came on a Sunday, so my long day, right? So I would try to go as long as possible. That was March 9th. March 9th, this past March, right? March 9th, 2025, to be exact. I felt strong and confident. And again, I was fasted still. I may have switched, and I'm pretty sure I did, from pose 1 to pose 2 in that 4 minute plank. But remember, that was a Sunday, and that was my long plank. So that was cool. I'm like, yeah, I'm awesome. I felt so awesome. I had reached the 3 minute, 30 second mark in my training. So I knew my body can now handle more than half the goal time in pose 1. So again, getting to 3:30 in pose 1 was critical, and I was able now to do it. So much so that I got to 4 minute plank, right? I was wise to, again, I'm going to reiterate, I was wise to stay at the 3 minute, 30 second minute mark, an extra week, as it helped me feel, and it helped me understand the body cues that were coming on that meant stress was building. Okay. So I really dove into my breathing again, really focused on keeping my body as just very, definitely straight, but more to the point, wasn't stressing it out. So my stress response even got better, meaning my hands were together, but they weren't, I wasn't sweating as bad. The 4 minute week started. Okay, so I started it right off that Sunday, and I was now going for endurance. Okay, meaning I knew my body now had the ability to stay in pose 1 without freaking out, and that meant I could enlist some grit. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I am very close. I'm a minute away from my goal. So if I do need to push a little, my body isn't going to step back. It's actually going to allow me to push a little harder. Not that I needed to, but only if necessary. Keep that in mind, okay? So remember, I want to reach my 5 minute plank goal with as little stress on my body as possible. I didn't want to grind, all right? No hustling. My body, I didn't want it to be shaking or grunting. I wanted to, I mean, you were going to shake some. I mean, hello, it's going to happen. But I didn't want to be in a stress response, okay? So the fun part, here we go. On March 20th, 2025. So yeah, just wow, I was so impressed. I was in my fourth day. Okay, so fourth day, not even the whole week. I was in the fourth day of my 4 minute week. Even though I had already planked in that morning, okay, so I plank again every morning. I had already planked fasted, right? I decided, I'm like, you know what? I want to test my body with food in my system, since I usually plank fasted, all right? And I already knew that if I had fuel, I would have more energy. Okay, so it was, again, at the very beginning, it was already known that, yes, I probably could have even gone faster had I eaten before planking, but I'm like, no, this is how I usually work. I don't mind having a movement practice when I'm fasted, right? If I was going to do something vigorous, yes, I would eat, but most of the time it's pretty low key. So in this challenge, I was like, I'm not going to change my life for this challenge. That was the main point. I was going to use ease and flow to get me to that 5-minute mark. So I went ahead and decided, okay, I've eaten, I'm feeling groovy. Let's see what happens. At 2:09 p.m. Pacific time, I completed my personal best plank time of 5 minutes, 2 seconds. 2 seconds. So 5 minutes, 2 seconds. Heck yeah. I had reached my plank goal 2 weeks earlier than planned. How's that for consistency? I'll let you think about that one. Yeah, 2 weeks early. I'm pretty impressed with myself, and I celebrated a big deal. Some of you reading, maybe one, or I'm sorry, not reading, some of you watching, okay, maybe wondering how I could jump a whole minute up in time if I had never gone past 4 minutes before, right? Okay, fair question. Reason one, muscle memory. I already said muscle memory, right? As a former runner, and I may take it up again, but for now, no, I walk. I mostly walk now. As a former runner, I know that when training for any race, okay, and anyone who runs will know this, the actual training program never, ever calls upon you to actually run the whole mileage. So let's say I've only run a half marathon, but in that program, never once did I go the whole 13.1 miles. No, it only went up to 11 miles. Instead, the plan has you run both short and long distances throughout the training period. So for instance, if you're training, like I said, for a half marathon, you're never going to actually run that whole half marathon distance. It stops before that. It stops like usually around 11 miles. Why? Well, to avoid injury, big reason, and allow for adequate rest and recovery. What was that? Rest and recovery. Yeah. I only planked once a day for obviously that whole time. And because I was feeling so strong, I was like, let me see what happens if I were to add in something useful, i.e., fuel in my tummy, right? So the long period of training, again, that's muscle memory, it kicks in. So after knowing that I could go past 4 minutes, now it's just a matter of literally endurance. Your muscle memory takes over. And you're like, okay, I can go a few more miles in a marathon. Heck yeah, you can. Same goes for a plank. So I knew I could do it. My aerobic endurance had clicked up, right? Same as if I were running in a race. Because I went 11 miles, I know I can hit 2 more miles. Okay. And reason two, my body had extra fuel in the form of food. So remember, my body is used to no food in the tummy for my regular type of stuff. But one, I don't like planking, to be honest, right? I mean, it's definitely taxing. But either way, I didn't have food in my tummy, so I didn't have excess energy. I had enough energy, but I didn't have excess. I didn't have excess fuel to get me over that 1 minute mark, right? So I had trained though to handle the stress of 4 minutes without food, no problem. But obviously, getting 1 extra minute without food wouldn't necessarily stress my body, okay, if I had tried it without the food. But because I had food, my muscle memory kicked in. And it was so easy because my fuel said, heck yeah, I can go, I can keep going. In fact, I actually could have kept planking past that 5:02 mark, but I didn't because the prayer had stopped. So I only needed to go, right, for 5 minutes, but I also wanted to go to the end of the prayer, right? I would listen to that prayer every day. I'm like, as long as I can get to the end of the prayer, I know I've done it because it was like, you know, just over 5 minutes. And I did it. I was so completely amazed at myself. It was awesome. Um, when the prayer stopped, I almost couldn't believe it. I'm like, are you done? Really? So that was awesome. I reached my 5-minute plank 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Yes, at level 50, age 50. And I had never ever planked for that long. Okay. So I share this because I want to remind women in menopause, perimenopause, to understand that your bodies are incredible. And right now in that period, we're feeling like, oh, what is going on? Yes, it's crazy. I'm in there too. I'm in menopause. But it's part of life. And we, one, get to be grateful that we're even here to experience, right, menopause. A lot of people don't get that far, right? But I honored my body this whole time. And so I know that creating personal best without causing my body harm or stress, needless stress, right? That's a gift. Life is a gift. And I want more female activists to feel proud um, when they don't put their body under so much stress, that they wear the badge of honor, that they actually honored their body and used ease and flow whenever possible for the wellness journey. Okay. Grace and empathy. If grace and empathy is the question, is the answer to all the awfulness that's happening right now in our country, then guess what? Imagine what it can do for your body and your brain, right? Your whole body deserves empathy and grace. Okay. Our bodies are changing daily, right? So we get to meet our bodies where they're at with love and compassion. And I know that if you're looking for any type of wellness goal, I can definitely help you out there. And I would love to speak to you if you're game. So with that, I wanted to say yay to anyone in this period of their life, because it's definitely something, right? And again, knock on wood, I'll see another 50 years in wonderful health. But more than anything, I'm just proud that I put myself out there and I use love and compassion. Okay. Not grunting, not grinding, not hustle. I used ease and flow to get to my better self. And I'm very happy with that. And I want to inspire you to do the same in whichever way possible. And I would love to be on that journey with you as your wellness coach. All right. So with that, we will let you go. And God bless Booker if he probably is, but needless to say, we will see you soon. And yeah, talk to you then. Take care, take charge. God bless.